For around 6 years, I'm teaching children for free about software development and fintech or finance. And there's one thing that I figured out works better than anything else when you explain something. Like I did the same when lecturing at universities as well. It just works for everyone. And I would say it's kind of dramatic or tragic to some extent that people don't do this more. And what I'm talking about is simple storytelling. Right? So like we all most likely did have the experience when we listen to something interesting or exciting. People are oftentimes passionate about what you're talking about. They go up with their voice and down, and they talk with their hands and they move around, and they really are convinced that what they're saying and telling and showcasing is something of value that you should know and understand. And it's kind of sad that when you attend lectures nowadays, a lot of people don't do that or don't have the spark or don't have the willingness to do so. I don't think it's necessarily always a skill, although you definitely can learn these things. But I do think when you kind of choose a subject to lecture or to teach about, of course, in the end, for a lot of people, it's also just a job. But usually it's something that you're at least used to be interested in. And I totally get that as well. When you teach people, there are always people, like no matter what you do, there are people or students or kids, whoever you teach to, that aren't just interested in the subject that you're talking about. And you of course have to deal with that. And that's just how things are. But there are always a few students or a few kids that really light up when you talk about the subject with some passion and share a story. Like this is actually it. Like I remember whenever I thought about blockchain or Bitcoin, for example, I started with 2008 and what is money and all these things. Like, why is this a $1 bill worth something? Like, why do you accept this piece of paper in exchange for your goods or services? And kids or students and so on, although people know this, they oftentimes are not aware of this. And when you share these things in some kind of a story and are passionate about that and go deeper and deeper and deeper and add some drama drama to it as well. It's like really crazy. I would say two-thirds of a classroom or whatever is like really sitting here and listening to you and really being excited. Of course, not every subject can be like this. If you're lecturing about math, it's of course much more difficult to share stories, right? But I remember one professor, like when I was a student, and he was just so let's say passionate about mathematics that we as students like found it funny, like in a sense that wow, like how can be so, can someone be so hyped about math, right? Like we sat there and he was like flying around the classroom and explaining this formula and we're, wow, guys, this is crazy, and do you understand that? Yes and no. And it's was just crazy, but this actually create a lot of dynamic in the classroom, and people actually listen way more. And this is what you definitely can do in every subject. Of course, it takes a lot of energy and skill and resilience because not every day is the same. But this is just something that I figured, like if you are able to start that way and you try to be consistent, it gets easier because people are like if you're already in emotion, you will behave the same way as you did before. It kind of becomes a habit, and it becomes easier just because you start to be wired that way, and people expect that from you. Like if you always go in the same classroom and you teach about a subject in a passionate way, people are expecting that of you. And if you would be like a little bit down today, people would notice, and that would then maybe again trigger your hey, I need to push a little bit more, and then you feel better about yourself. So this is something that I figured out. Storytelling, like if you can, depending on the subject. With math, obviously a little bit more difficult, but also here you can, because a lot of things that math actually does for us in the, and of course stories blow the time spent on a lecture. So this is also something to consider. But just being passionate about something, and if you aren't really anymore for some reason, or you, then try to fake it a little bit, because this is something you actually can push from yourself, like being more energetic. And that alone will give you a lot of energy and then maybe even passion. And yeah, just thought I would share that because I see both sides and have been on both sides. And